Hello everyone and welcome to Overinspected. This is episode 4. Wait, no, it's 5, I think. And we're gonna get started. So, no, oh my God,
no, it was good. It was so good.
No, was it good? Oh my God.
It was so good.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5 of Overinspected. I'm Cary Huang and I'm here with my co-hosts Michael Chai and Manu Singal.
You got it. You got it, dude.
Oh,
Have confidence.
awesome. I actually don't know if I've ever tried to pronounce your name like
Have
speaking.
confidence, Cary.
Yeah, confidence is the most important thing.
Yeah.
See,
Not
what's
necessarily...
most in a WCA competition, like official result, what's most important? The average or the single?
Oh, okay, that's a
Let's
good way
go.
to think about it.
Let's go.
Yeah, I could see my audio form go clip, but that's okay.
He
Yeah.
really went there, man.
I just
He re-
annihilate.
he
Dude, that was
really
a
went there.
violation.
All right.
Do you hear that a lot? Is that
Comment down below
yeah.
if that was a violation or if that was an embarrassment. I mean, I'll let it up. I'll leave it up to you guys.
So actually, like one of like the very first, I think in middle school, right? Actually, this is an excellent segue. In middle school, like I don't know, like I would just constantly, like I don't know, it was just like he's like the single best one in the class, or like, or I don't know. There were just a lot of puns about this. That and unfortunately, maybe I shouldn't even say this, but that and then manure also. Those are very common.
Oh, yikes! You got
Oh,
called
yeah.
manure?
I feel like
Well,
that's
yeah, because
borderline
it's just
bullying.
because the only two words that begin with manu are maneuver and manure, right? And people are like, haha, manure, funny word.
Manuscript.
But that's manu, right?
Well,
Yeah, man,
there's
you.
there's a couple puns to be had here, but the first thing is just to clarify, your name, is it like a soft G and then like you pronounce the H a little bit?
Singhal.
Yeah. So like when I say your name, I try my best, but it'd be like, I wonder if it's a bad thing that we're saying everyone's full name here, but I don't think it is that bad.
Well-
I mean, it's all in our WCA.
Yeah, our
right?
profiles are all visible, so.
Well, just a sidebar. This is like a lot of this stuff is almost an invasion of privacy. The fact that we're just so public on the WCA, website.
Yeah, I was thinking about this.
It's
also.
it's a little bit weird because like,
I-
especially if you're an online personality, it's a little bit.
If you're an online personality or if you're a kid. But I think this is a really good point of conversation, and considering that is not the point of this podcast episode, let's save it for another one. Let's do next episode.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
actually very, very true. But
Oh.
just to pronounce your name, when I try to pronounce your name, I say Singhal. Like,
Yeah, that's good enough.
I try to get pretty close.
That's good enough. I think it's like, yeah, it's one thing that I've realized also as I've been like picking up more and more Japanese is that like there are just like some sounds that you're just not used to like saying or producing rather. So you have to get really like it takes a lot of practice to be able to like produce that sound. Japanese also has a G sound. Well, it's like a G sound, I guess. That's very, very difficult to pronounce, and it's generally taught as like, oh, it's just a G, right? Like a soft G. But it actually is like a really weird nasally G type thing where you like you use like the back of your tongue against like the roof of your mouth in order to produce. It's very difficult.
like.
Like
Yeah.
like nga,
Nga.
something like that.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say that, like, because I took Japanese for 3 months, so I'm not as fluent as you might be. That they would just teach like GA as just ga.
Yeah.
But then I would hear on TV that like a newscaster would say it as nga or something.
Yeah,
between,
exactly.
like nga and ga, and then
Yeah,
I would ask
yeah.
the teacher like, what is going on?
Yeah,
And
but
they just
another thing-
said
Another thing which was interesting
Too complicated.
that I've literally just figured out while I was just like within like the last couple of weeks is that apparently like Japanese like news reporters on Japanese channels, that is, they have to like there's an entire like regimen that they need to go through on how to pronounce words clearly, and because Japanese has a little bit of pitch, like there are words that change depending on if you start high and end low or start low and end high. They have to go through and like sort of memorize all the different pitch patterns. I say sort of because like, for example, like when we speak English, right? Like we just know that like tomorrow is the correct way and tomorrow is not, like that's not standard English, right? So
Right.
yeah.
but there's some like small things that you need to like memorize, like what if you like wrote into like a new word, like I don't know, like some like like words that ended like tion when you're just taking a verb and turning it into a noun. There are also things like that in Japanese, but if you've never seen that word together, then how do you know what to do? So they just have a bunch of rules and stuff like that.
Right. Oh, this kind of reminds me of, I remember in middle school, like people were talking about the pronunciation of words, but the kids would always, I mean, I guess I was a kid too. Everyone was saying pronunciation.
Yeah.
And like it always aggravated me because I was like, it's spelled pronunciation. But I mean, if you just think about attaching pronounce to ation,
Yeah.
it makes sense that you like on the first occurrence you would just say pronunciation.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's like similar.
Yeah,
Similar.
exactly. So like eventually you need to like, if you've never seen this combination of words together, right? Or it's not words, I guess it's like word parts or whatever. Like how do you know like how to say it in the correct way? As opposed to like, using some like wrong putting like some wrong emphasis or using like the wrong like vowel sound, for example. That's one thing that's sort of good in Japanese. Like most of the vowel sounds are very, very similar. There's only like some devoicing things that happen sometimes.
Right. Yeah. This could be a linguistics podcast. What do you think?
we should just totally do it at this point.
Well,
Yeah.
before, so I did have a question, like, regarding the stuff that we're going to talk about today. But for our video listeners, I don't know if you noticed, Cary's got quite the cube over there.
Oh, okay.
What's
yeah,
going
yeah,
on there,
this
buddy?
thing. Well, it's just
Yeah.
floating. I mean, I didn't even put it there. It's sort of like if you think about an object hard enough, it will just materialize. Like, the kind of frequencies of your brainwaves will help like solidify the atoms of the object.
Dude, he's just a psychic tech Pokemon
you can see like
at this point.
it's like there's nothing underneath it. It's literally just floating there.
Yeah.
I think this has got to be like a little bit of we got to give it a little bit of like character development. So like each podcast that goes on, it moves like one face.
I mean, I can't control it.
You can't control it.
Oh, you can.
It's like you can't. Well, it's
So
sort of like
it's
saying,
sentient.
okay,
It's sentient. It's its own being.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think it's sort of like tied to my sentience somehow, but kind of like dreams or kind of like the psyche. Some parts of it you can't reach. You can't like have a happy dream every time, because then otherwise why would nightmares occur? But like there's little things you can tweak.
Right, yeah. It's like, I guess it's like somewhere it's like subconsciously controlled, but you have no clue like which switches to turn in order to actually get like like I don't know, like F to turn or whatever.
Yeah. So each time I'll like try practicing a different like mind activity, and we'll see if it changes.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have to tune in week after week to see if
Oh,
the
no.
cube is ever going to be solved.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't even know. None of us know.
None of us know.
The question that I wanted to ask was, you brought this up, Manu, and I thought like, oh, I didn't even think about that when we were talking about today's podcast. But before we get started with anything else, I thought it would be an interesting topic of discussion for us if we talked a little bit more about maybe our experiences growing up in elementary and middle school, or
Sure.
like if we were bullied a little bit, because I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, like what or why, or like you could even like be like your own. What would be the word, skeptic, or like you would
Devil's
assume
advocate?
no, like you would know why you got bullied in a sense.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like a holistic perspective.
Yeah. A retrospective, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like looking back in the past. I mean,
Yeah.
since you already mentioned it a little bit, Manu, could you like go into that a little bit more?
Yeah. I think so. I guess I'll answer a question with this slight question. This is only a slight aside. Do you guys think you have like good like memories from like your younger days of school, especially elementary school, like let's say like kindergarten, first grade, second grade?
I think I had a pretty sheltered childhood, which is good because I don't know. I think that when I was a kid, I was just doing kid things, like playing with toys and like playing tag. It's like there weren't any hardships, which is a good thing. But I've also heard that 90% of like people who have Wikipedia pages written about them had like childhood trauma. So there's something about how like trauma turns you into like a exceptional adult,
Well, yeah. So I guess it's
So-
over for you then, right, Cary? Like,
Yeah, I think it's like I didn't have any any sort of like really painful experience that would have turned me into like a troubled soul, and troubled souls change the world.
Interesting. Well, I guess we know that Cary is literally never going to be famous, even though he already is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my cat showed up.
Oh.
Oh, if she knocks down this whole. Oh my god. Should I turn the webcam? Okay.
No, it's fine.
I mean,
Well, no,
I mean,
no.
I thought you said turn it off. I was
No,
like,
turn
no.
it. No, I was asking to show the cat more.
Yes.
Because,
Yes. Show cats.
Yeah.
okay.
Show cats.
Heck yeah.
Okay. we're
For
gonna do
video
it.
listeners only.
Oh, you can see down my sleeve, my armpit.
Oh. For free?
Cat.
Look this way.
Oh. Dude,
Meow.
he's so flute.
Oh
Is
my
it he
God.
or
I know.
she?
A she.
Oh, she.
What's her name?
Oh, her. I guess her casual name is Better, which sounds kind of silly. But my other cat's casual name is Good. So
Good and better.
yeah, Good and Better.
Doesn't it seem
Sometimes I
like you
feel
have a favorite child?
Wait.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why I say casual name, because I'm worried that like if those are their official names, then people say that's animal abuse to claim that Better is better
Yeah.
than Good.
Yeah.
So
the
like
hell?
legally their names are Jin Jin and Hui Hui, which just means like gold and silver or gray in Chinese. But no one
Yeah.
calls them that. I just say, hey Better, come here.
What?
Dude.
Gee,
What?
that was very interesting, Cary.
Well-
I think you're gonna get a lot of comments about this one.
Well, no, I like Good is like the older cat, so it kind of makes sense that
Dude,
no, it does not make sense.
You're taking yourself
Well,
into a hole.
dude,
No,
what are you
Good
trying to
is like
sell
one of my
to us
favorite
right
cats.
now?
No, people already know what my cats' names are, and they like the names because
Okay.
I've made videos about them before.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Now she's like doing that thing where she's gonna knock over my microphone.
Oh jeez. Very adorable though. I like how she like knocks it over and then she just bolts.
I'm not. Isn't these names that you're giving them like a form of bullying? Like whoever, like Good the cat, just must feel totally annihilated right now.
No, I actually I think Good has the personality of being like aloof and like too cool for school. I think if anything, like Good, I don't know, her name is just like it fits. I don't know how it fits, but it just does.
I see.
As for Better, like, okay, this podcast isn't about my cats, right? It's supposed to be about cubing.
I mean, hey, it's always nice to have a guest come onto the show. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
true. For first
Yeah.
guest episode.
First guess.
No, but Manu, you were talking about. What
Yeah.
were you on
So
before?
yeah, while Cary is fixing his mic, yeah, it's like because I feel like a lot of people that I've talked to are like, yeah, I don't really remember anything from like elementary school. It was just like all kind of the same or whatever. But I feel like I have like somewhat distinct like memories of very particular things. Like one of the things like I remember is like when I was in first grade, it was an election year. I think it must have been 2004.
Probably.
So like we were like, you know, everyone was like everybody got like a little like ballot, right? Like a toy ballot. And they were like, yeah, so like everybody let's vote. Let's participate in our democracy. And you know, because we were just first graders, we had no clue what we were doing. We were like, oh yeah, voting, I guess this is good. I mean voting is probably good. Anyway. But we didn't realize that like these were like not real votes. We thought they were like real votes. So and on the ballot, because I think they wanted to avoid being like too political to very young children, they made us vote between George Washington and Abraham Lincoln on who should become the president. And like I remember like I don't remember who I picked, but I remember like picking one. And then at some point, like, you know, somebody won like the class election. And then like, oh, it's like, oh yeah, this guy is gonna become the president, or like, you know, we're gonna send these votes off or whatever. And then we got these stupid little stickers. And then during the actual election, I think Bush won this election. So then it was just like, wait, who is this guy? He was not on my ballot. Like I wanted George Washington to win or whatever. So yeah, I remember like very distinct, like just like random little slices like that out of like elementary school.
Mhm.
Yeah, you probably felt sabotaged. Like we voted for Washington. Where's Washington?
This is voter fraud.
In the
Stop the
ground.
count.
Oh yeah, back in 2004.
Yeah,
Well, I remember, like, I have very vague memories of that election also, but I know that I wanted to vote for Cary because his name sounded like my name,
Ah, yeah.
and like that's just how like 7-year-olds choose.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
oh,
Yeah.
the name sounds funny.
I mean, are things that different nowadays? I feel like a lot of people are just like, haha, this is funny. I will vote for this.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like meme voters.
Yeah.
I'm trying
I
to
guess-
get my cat out of the way.
To avoid getting too political though, like another one of my elementary school memories was, this is like one of the, like I described this memory as like probably one of the most classic like Manu things to ever happen. It was in second grade, we had a holiday party because I think in elementary school we just always had holiday parties for no reason instead of like actually learning anything.
Learning
So
the importance of holidays.
I guess that's true, yeah. I think this was the Christmas party too, so it was like a relatively important holiday party. And there was a trivia section or whatever. And during the trivia section, they asked a question that was like, oh, I remember the question. Like, what was the capital of Missouri? Right? And there was no like multiple choice or anything, so you just have to come up with the answer. Most of the kids just did not know what was going on. I'm pretty sure most of them didn't even know Missouri was a state. But then it was me and one other person, and I was like, oh yeah, it's Jefferson City. And then the other person is like, no, it's Kansas City, right? And the teacher, for some reason, I think she got confused, and she's like, oh yeah, it's Kansas City. Kansas City is the capital of Missouri.
Oh, so you felt wronged.
And I was like, no, it's Jefferson City. What do you mean? You can look it up. Like, we have books, right? Like, you can just look it up in the book. But for some reason, they refused to do it. And they're like, oh, no. It's Kansas City. And so, I don't know what, they must have been some prize or something. Probably just like a little piece of candy. But I felt so wrong that I started crying. And I think they probably told my parents. And they were like, yeah, dude, like, your kid just started crying because he, like, got a question wrong. But I knew that I got the question. I knew I got the answer right.
I can't believe they didn't just look it up, because like any
I
atlas
know.
would have that, and like you were right. So
well,
like,
I think I'm right.
Yeah.
In before, I'm like, my memory is just wrong, and I just got like Mandela affected or something.
right. I feel like little kids, you like some people had like, you know, an affinity to learn geography, and other kids just never picked it up. Do you think you were one of the kids who did have an affinity for that stuff?
I had an extreme affinity.
I
Yeah, it's like
God.
so like in my school we used to do these things called, like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the National Geographic Bee. It's basically a spelling bee but for geography.
Yeah, I remember our school had it, but they called it the GOB.
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought they were spelling a word like GOB, and I'm like, the gob, what's that?
Oh, I didn't think about that until just now.
The GOB.
The GOB, the Grand Old Bus. I don't know. Yeah, we used to have Geography B, and so we actually did it in elementary school also. But I think the only reason we did it in elementary school is because I think my parents were actually like, yeah, like, he's like really good at geography. There's this thing called the National Geographic Geography Bee. Why don't you just hold it at the school? So then the school actually did it. But my crowning achievement was in 6th grade. And honestly, I think my life has been downhill ever since 6th grade. 6th grade was probably the peak of my life. In 6th grade, I got 3rd in the state level.
Oh, in the
geography.
state. Wait, that's
Yeah.
actually pretty legit. Like that would be like around 150th in the country, which is pretty high.
Well, I guess
if you like
because
multiplied by 50. I don't know if math
yeah.
works out that way.
Yeah, it probably doesn't actually work out that way, but I the other thing I remember from that is I had a rival because like we were in the same like school district, and only one person can be like the winner from each school. So there was just me and this other guy from the same school district. He was in 8th grade though, so he had the leg up on me. And because the final 10 they put them all on the same stage. So I think it was him, me, and one other person. And at that point, it was like who's gonna get 5th, 4th, and 3rd, because like I think like the top 2 were guaranteed, but then everyone else was just like vying for 3rd. And then he got the answer wrong. The other guy got the answer wrong, and I got the answer right. I think this is how this went down. So then I ended up getting 3rd, and I beat my rival.
Redemption for Manu.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
If the Jefferson City thing was like the injustice, this was justice.
Oh my God, you're right. It's like it's just a story, right? Because the hero has like the injustice occur to him at the beginning, and then there's like the training arc over a couple of years, and then 6th grade was the peak, and then ever since then it was just downhill. I've never been back.
That just means that you're in like another injustice period, but then redemption is coming.
Well, I don't know about that. I think I'm just bad now.
Oh no.
That's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I remember like random things like this. Do you guys have like, anything particular you remember from like grade school?
Well, I remember having the GOB as well, and I didn't get up to 3rd in the state. By the way, I guess if we're in, what can we say, like a very largely populated state, then being 3rd in the state is better than
it's a lot better
statistically than being 3rd in Wyoming or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I don't think there's any. I mean, California. I mean, like, there's no way to hide it. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's also such a big state that it's fine.
Yeah, true.
Like,
I think
if you had to like drop a pin somewhere in the United States, good chance it lands in California.
Yeah, especially population-wise. Like, pick
population
Not a
wise.
pin. How about a marble? How about a marble? If you dropped a marble on the United States,
Well, then isn't it just gonna go to the Gulf? More than likely, it'll end up in the Gulf.
It'll roll down the
Because-
Mississippi River.
Yeah, right.
Oh, are you considering mountains?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's like
okay.
literally
Yeah,
a
that's
divide,
fair.
right? The continental divide that splits like all the water. If it falls on this side of the divide versus this side of the divide, it will end up either in the Pacific or the Atlantic.
Oh, fair enough. Well, as you can tell, I am not very good at geography. I am notoriously bad at geography, actually. My Twitch stream makes fun of me a lot for it.
Roll the clip editing menu.
Switzerland. Oh shoot, I am way off. You're not even close. Your part, like Switzerland is Nordic, right? Is Switzerland considered a Nordic region? Jesus Christ. Sorry, I'm not good at geography. Oh my goodness. Right below Germany. The Nordic one is Sweden.
Yeah, I have a particular mod who actually clipped me making a mistake calling a particular area a Nordic region when it was probably not. But
Probably not. It definitely is not.
Anywho, as far as like school goes, I think I don't really have any like good memories, but I don't really have any bad memories from elementary, like not from school. All of my good memories from the childhood always came from outside of school. You know what I mean? Like, especially like I grew up in Texas and it was like a gated neighborhood, stuff like that, like hanging out with the other kids in the area. Now I'll just like say this pretty blatantly. When I look back upon it, it was kind of like, I guess I just didn't realize it. But thinking back on it, I wonder if anyone thought it was like really funny how I was like the only Asian guy.
Oh, because in Texas, the Asian population would be smaller.
Yeah, it's predominantly white and Latino, Hispanic, I think. But yeah, I never really thought about it. I never really felt like I was treated any differently either. But like growing up with like context of life and stuff like that, I always wondered if it was, bless you. I always wondered if, you have COVID confirmed.
Oh no.
I always wondered if it was something that maybe there were some microaggressions or anything like that. But no, I don't think anything like that happened. I had like pretty positive memories. School was bland though. I mean, there was nothing good about school. There was nothing bad. I was like an above average student for like my whole time. I think what I will say, like, I remember I took most of my middle school and high school in China. Kids in China, I wouldn't say you get like those types of bullies. Like, people are a little bit more close or casual, but when I first moved there, man, some of the kids were ruthless because I was a little bit overweight.
Oh, do you think this...
some of the name calling? I lost some weight after that, and then it wasn't really that big of a deal. I would say I probably have more negative memories in middle school than elementary school.
Yeah, I mean, I also imagine that like they would just see you as an outsider in the first, few months.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt too. Like really not knowing who to talk to or who I thought would oh, they're my friend, stuff like that. What made it really easy was that I actually played like a lot of like basketball just in the basketball courts. Nothing serious. Like the schools in China at the time wasn't developed to the point where they had extracurricular activity. Like there wasn't any like formulated teams where you school against school, stuff like that. All that stuff was developed like more recently. So like stuff like spelling bees wouldn't exist, for example.
But basketball that was like outside of the school system, right? It was just for fun.
No. I played in school, but that was the thing that like got me talking to people for the most part. And
right.
Then, made friends, and that's also how I lost weight. So it was kind of nice. I by no means I was not a jock though. I always thought I was a pretty above average student though. Like I did pretty well. Yeah, I'm not that smart at the end of the day.
No, but if you I'm sure if you were a good student, you're pretty smart. But
yeah,
I guess I've never actually asked you this. But if you were in China during that like age range, did you have to study for the Gaokao? Like everyone else? Like did you get out before then?
No, actually, this is an interesting thing. I went to an IB school.
Oh, really?
Okay, so it was still like within the.
Manu, I think I told you about this before. But if I didn't, maybe I did, but maybe I didn't. I went to an IB school because I know Manu, you went to an IB school.
Yeah. We were also we were not an IB only school, but we offered the IB program.
Did you have A levels and stuff like that?
We didn't have A levels. A levels are like a very, very like not American thing.
Yeah,
A levels, I believe, are British actually, but maybe they got brought over to other countries.
I mean, IB is British too, right?
I think IB is French. It might.
Well, anyways, it stands for International
Baccalaureate.
Baccalaureate, yeah.
I always remember IB as being like the sister branch of AP because they would always say like if you have a 5 in AP or something with IB, then you can skip this college class.
Yeah.
I mean, I did good on my final exams in DP2, which is essentially 12th grade. Like I got a 39 out of 42. I think that was pretty nice.
Oh, you did better than I did. I got a 36.
I forgot about all the projects and stuff that were involved. What
these things
called?
CAS. I remember CAS. CAS was awful.
I don't understand like how my curriculum even was like. It was like half of it was just not even structured. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, IB was interesting because IB it was either like all or nothing kind of. So it's like you have to take like there are like 6 areas or whatever, and you need to take like one course out of each of them. You need a certain amount of higher level courses, a certain amount of standard level courses. But then there are also like the intangibles classes that they seem to have. It's like theory of knowledge, extended essay, and community action
EEs.
Service.
Yeah, extended essay. That's what I was thinking. The EEs. Oh.
Yeah, which is a 10,000 page paper that you have to just write in like high school.
I was gonna say this sounds like an exaggeration, but school systems can be crazy. Maybe that's for real.
No, yeah, that is legit. The EE was probably one of the harder things I'd ever done.
But 30 minutes in. When I applied to colleges, I was pretty stern on wanting to attend college in the United States. I felt that I probably had a couple options if I wanted to attend college in the UK, because I knew that I would do pretty well in the IB final exams. Like that wasn't something I was worried about. What I was worried about was and in school I was a bookworm. In a sense that I would be pretty good at retaining the knowledge and I would be pretty good at studying. Like I had pretty good study habits. I am the antithesis. I was the antithesis of procrastination. I would like study for an hour during this time, study for an hour during that time, sleep at 9 p.m., wake up at 6. Like I would do that, and I'd be like, even in college, I would be like to people, oh, you need to sleep 8 hours before that exam. Like if you're studying way overnight, you're gonna tank
you're
eventually.
doomed. Yeah.
But I mean, some people do that, and that's totally fine. But I was that student. So when I was pretty confident in the IB exams, but what I wasn't confident in is, and I realized that this was really poor planning. There are certain things on the SAT that's the thing that I need to apply and then go to American schools, obviously. And then it was pretty difficult to first schedule an SAT. In China, you have to mostly schedule it in Hong Kong. And then the other thing is there are things in the SAT curriculum that just by happenstance will not be covered in IB. Like small things here and there. Like there were some things in the math segment that I had no idea what was going on. Even in the sections I was good at, in the biology section, I was like doing terrible. Like there was just like things in the test. So I was like, man, what? But yeah, I didn't score that well in the SAT. So when I applied to colleges, I wasn't really sure like what colleges I would be accepted to and stuff like that. I don't know. How did you guys feel during your college applications?
Yeah, I remember SATs were a grind. My parents were like, yeah, dude, like all of it. It's also funny because my parents still they don't call the SAT like normal people. They call it the SAT. They call it the SAT.
They call it normal. Say SAT.
I think most people say the SAT, and like most people like understand it's SAT. But like my parents, for some reason, have never caught on to that. They still think it's called the SAT, and they don't even say ACT either. They also say ACT.
The ACT.
But here's the thing:
weird to say SAT and then ACT.
The only reason I don't think it's weird is because you add an L to it and it's normal.
LSAT.
LSAT.
PSAT. Okay. I remember there's also the PSAT, and I took that one.
The P. Yeah. So like, I mean, you guys know what the LSAT
is. Well, except
right?
the thing is, we all called it the PSAT. No, none of us called it the PSAT. Only my parents called it the PSAT.
I don't think it's bad. I would say it's not that
well, in any case,
abnormal.
In any case, yeah, like it was just funny because sometimes they would ask like teachers and stuff, right? Like during like parent teacher conferences or whatever. It's like, oh, is this gonna help my kid for the SAT exam? And they would just have no clue. They're just like, what is the SAT? And there's like, you know, like the standardized test. Oh, you mean the SAT? Like that.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. Yeah. I guess
I think
gotta know the language.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's like one of the things you pick up, right? Because you like if you see SAT together, do you say SAT or do you say SAT? Anyway.
Wait, when you prep for the SAT, did you like study a whole lot for it, like specifically like SAT curriculum?
Yeah.
That's what I did.
They're like these
I didn't
big,
do that at all.
They're like big books. I think I remember the Barron's book and the Princeton Review books in particular. And then like they're like I remember like this was I think between like sophomore year and junior year of high school. Like I would just I would just like take like practice tests like maybe like once every like 2 weeks or something, and then just in the middle every single day just like grind to like practice problems or like study tips or just not study tips, I guess like test taking tips. I think my parents put me in like a lot of like classes and stuff too. So yeah, I remember that period. And I mean like at that time I didn't think it was like anything in particular. I was just like, oh yeah, like, you know, I need to study well for these tests because I need to do well on the tests. But now looking back on it, it was just like, wow, like I spent a lot of time on those tests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like when you're an adult, you realize how much time school had taken up.
Yeah. Wait, was your experience similar, Cary?
I do remember Barron's, but like only because of a computer science class I took, and like they had Barron's as like a practice book for the AP. But in terms of the SAT, I just remember that I would always run out of time during the reading section. So like the one thing I would like train before the SAT was like vocabulary.com. It would just like give you these, because they would always quiz you on words that no one uses. So like they would just like show like a ton of SAT words, and then like you try to get faster at like defining them. And like if you don't know the words, you can try to guess their meaning based on like the morphemes within the word.
Right.
So yeah, I do remember studying that. Yeah, and then I think like our year, the SAT was out of 2400, but since then they've removed the essay, and I think like next year they're also just removing the SAT as a like college.
Was it since wait? So when you took the SATs, what year was that?
2014.
And did they remove it right after? The very next year they removed it?
No,
or is it just like
I also took 2400 SAT. I think they removed it a couple years after.
Yeah, maybe
they turned it into from 2400 to 1600. They kept math alone, and then they combined reading and writing together. And then they also got rid of the essay became optional.
Oh yeah, it was optional. Like I guess it was still there. I don't know how that works because I guess we didn't take it, but like I think if I were a studious student, I would just write the essay because it's optional, but like this determines my entire academic future. I might as well do it.
Yeah.
Right.
But nowadays also the standardized tests I think are having a significantly diminished value. This is just from hearsay. That admissions committees take less account of or rather they take the SATs and the ACT they don't really care about them as much. It's especially during in 2020 or during the 2020 application cycle to be admitted into school starting fall 2021, they were very I know a lot of schools just ended up ditching the testing requirement altogether. They're if you have an SAT score that you'd like to send, feel free to send it, but if you don't have it, we literally cannot hold it against you. And I think that's probably going to continue in the future. Especially, I recently heard actually that the SAT was actually going to not even be administered in paper form. I think starting 2024, it will only be administered on computer. Yeah, similar to the GRE.
Interesting.
Sometimes I feel I also took the GRE and it felt very similar to the SAT. But there was something satisfying of having to go to a different high school to take the SAT, and they had all these arbitrary rules that you can take a 5-minute break every 40 minutes and you can only drink water or something weird. But it's a rite of I kind of saw it as a rite of passage. It wasn't fun, but it helped me grow up.
No, I think it was. No. I think it was. I don't know. I mean, the way that Manus described the SAT these days, maybe it's not anymore. But one of the things that I thought the SAT, I blame myself for this, but the SAT, I was good at learning from teachers. I was good at completing tasks, but I wasn't good at getting myself to learn. I wasn't good at forcing myself or getting myself to do tests or fill in the gaps of knowledge that I had, that I knew I had.
You mean self-study, basically, right?
Yeah, I wasn't good at self-studying, in a sense. I was good at self-studying. No. Self-learning. I was good at self-studying. I would say so. A lot of that is a lot of the SAT process is learning new things and using your brain in a new way. I don't know. It's a very independent process. And then, some people have their parents push them along quite a few. Like Manu, you said you took a bunch of classes and stuff like that. And some people are just really on the grind. I would talk to high school students now, and then same thing. But I was not in that. But it was a good. And upon reflection, it's I definitely see that gap in my capabilities as a person, and that's a good thing, in a sense.
Yeah. Do you feel everything related to speed cubing that is self-study? That's sort of no teacher will ever tell you learn all of OLL or something.
Oh no, it definitely is.
So the fact you're able to do that, I think, is a good indicator that you can.
But yeah, that I can, but I guess it depends on the content, right? I think people would be willing to put more effort with less content. What I mean by content is what are you learning, right? If it's academia, or if it's OLLs. But
yeah, there is a difference. Like,
Yeah.
well,
like,
I don't have a lot of knowledge in like writing college essays or college applications in a sense related to cubing, but this is something that we did want to ask because I think right now people have already probably submitted all their college applications. They're just waiting to hear back.
Yeah,
Maybe they heard back, but I know cubers care about this a lot. Like, it's crazy. The demographic, they're all about college, stuff like that. And
yeah.
did you guys include cubing at all in your application? Because I had not been a speed cuber at the time, so I didn't have the
Like, you
privilege,
didn't have, like,
I guess. I didn't have the privilege of using cubing as an example.
right. I think I remember I wrote one, like, I was part of a sort of summer camp to help write your college essay better, and like they said, like, you have to write 3 essays and then pick the better one, the best one of the 3. So I remember one of mine was about speed cubing, and back then my PB was 18 seconds, so things have changed. But I remember, like, I wrote it, and then the teacher said, like, that's your weakest essay, so go with the others. And I don't know if it's just because, like, I couldn't, like, maybe the story I was telling with speed cubing, just, like, I couldn't hit on the heartstrings as well as with the thing that I did write about, which was the scale of the universe. I don't know what it was, but eventually, like, she just said, like, that essay isn't as strong. So I tried, but it didn't work.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I threw in a little bit of cubing, but at this point, like, I had not been cubing, because I started cubing in 2012, and then I computed through 2013, but then once I started high school in 2013, in the fall, I basically just completely stopped cubing seriously. I remember, like, sometimes I would bring a cube to school and stuff, and I remember once I was actually sitting in my IB math class, and it was like, that class was very chill, but we like, I don't know, I was just cubing, and then I got a sub 15. That was my first ever sub 15
In class.
Yeah, in class. And then, like, the 2 guys sitting next to me, they were also cubers. Well, they weren't really cubers, but, like, they had also gotten into cubing back in middle school, and they're like, dude, you still do that? And I was like, haha. So I didn't really write about it too much. I remember
That's microbullying.
I remember in one of the, because I remember MIT used to have, like, this little what is it called, a little portal where you could submit, like, extra information or whatever. And I guess, like, my high school mind was just like, yeah, I need to use this, because if I don't put anything in this extra portal, they're just gonna think I'm a slacker, right? So for that, I ended up I think I recorded a solve on just a laptop, right? And so I had the laptop set up like this. I was like, hi, like, my name's Manu, and I'm gonna like solve a cube, right? And then I just flip the laptop down like this, and then do the solve, and then just flip it back up, like, yeah, that was me. And then I just show off the timer. It's like, yeah, like, I'm a speed cuber. I did end up getting it into MIT, so take that for what you will.
Maybe they rejected you because you weren't fast enough. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. They were like, yeah, we already have Colin Burns. We don't need another speed keeper.
Oh, is he?
Wait, actually, I don't even know if he was from MIT. So.
Well, I know Colin Burns got the world record when he was like 15, so, like, he definitely could have written about that in his application.
I mean, what I will say, like, when I said demographic, cubers in general, I think I talked to a lot of cubers that care a lot about college, but also I'm aware of a lot of cubers that are attending, like, esteemed schools, for example. I don't know. It's just, I think cubing is a really interesting thing to write about. A lot of people say that they do use cubing in their college applications.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
think... Sorry, good.
No. I was just gonna say, DG Cubes, Daniel Goodman.
Yeah.
I think during not Worlds, like US Nationals 2019, or maybe that was, I don't remember exactly the competition. But he, like, every big competition has sort of a day where they have, like, 1 hour talks, maybe like a panel or something. And I think Daniel talked about how to write about speed cubing for college because he had applied to Princeton and got in with an essay about speed solving. So I think, that's a good success story. Yeah, I think he's like 4 years younger than me, so I guess that would make him a junior now. Pretty cool.
Well, I mean, the thing about cubing is when you write about yourself in the perspective of cubing. It's just really, if you look at it from the outside in, it's basically this one person who's just obsessed with this one thing, and they're constantly like, self-learning, self-study, right? Learning these new algorithms, pushing themselves to be better. It's just this some sort of internal motivation that like oozes from cubers almost a little bit. But now, I don't know, sometimes I feel like people cube to almost be impressive and to get into college a little bit. There is that like sense that it kind of feels that way sometimes.
Yeah. It's just there to pad the resume, right? So like, here's one more thing that I can do that other applicants can't.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know.
Yeah. From that stance, I think it's interesting because someone who's not into speed cubing probably doesn't care if you average 10 seconds versus 8 seconds. Like to the speed cubing community, that's huge, but to an outsider, it's like, whatever, you're fast either way. So I think if you're only speed cubing to pad your resume, you don't actually have to invest as much time as like the top level cubers.
Yeah,
Right.
Definitely. I think also the essay game has probably changed because like we all like we all applied to college like over like 5 years, I guess at this point. Well, I applied like 7 years ago. That's crazy. Anyway, but I think the essay game has probably also changed at this point. I feel like back then the big thing for college essays was you want to like, at least like what I was told is that you want to just like you want to like sell yourself, right? Like I am like this kind of person, and like I'm really smart or whatever. Like this is the way that like I go about viewing the world, and this is like what I've done in the past to kind of like back me up, so that's not just like an empty claim. But I feel like nowadays like college essays are like much more like personable. Like I feel like there are like it's not like so much as like a checklist, like, oh, I need to talk about like this extracurricular, these awards or whatever. It's more like, like this is what I'm really passionate about, this is what I really want to do, and then like by proxy, this is why you should accept me into your school. So
Right.
Yeah.
The school I went to, they have a word for that kind of type of essay. I don't know if like you've heard it, but they call it pointy.
Interesting.
What?
Like the idea
Pointy?
is, yeah, pointy. So the idea
Oh,
is,
it's like point by point.
well, no, not that. It's like if you graph a student's skills like on a circle, if they're like pretty good at everything, then they'll look very round. But if they have like some exceptional skill where they're like really, really good and not as good as the others, then it'll be like a point that sticks out. Or maybe
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of Pokemon EV training.
Yeah.
is it also that circle graph?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
like a
there's,
spider. It's like a spider web, right?
Yeah, maybe they called it spiky. I think spiky was the word. But either way, like for essays, they always say like when you're writing your essay, you want to seem very spiky because your grades and your SAT score will show off the roundness. Like, your grades will show that you're good at history, you're good at math, you're good at English, but like they want to see the spikes.
Yeah.
And
That
so that's like, what you're
explains
super
the
passionate about.
extracurriculars, I guess.
Yeah.
Like that explains extracurriculars, like, or that if you're really good at basketball, for example, like, here's a scholarship, for example. I mean, it doesn't quite, the NCAA, that's a whole nother deal, but I like that sounds about right.
Yeah. I think another thing that was big about, I guess we're full into college advice now, and I guess I should mention a disclaimer. We all applied to college a long time ago, so things
I don't think
are
it was
probably. I mean, it was like a
It
relatively
is it is a long time ago.
It was a relatively long time ago, right? So, like, so a slight disclaimer, like, you probably shouldn't take what we say as hard and fast. Like, don't apply to college only thinking that like what we say is exactly right. You should definitely do your own research and consult other sources. And this is just kind of just like our experience behind the matter when we all applied, and we all got into college. So at least we're all successful in that way.
Yeah.
Well,
we're not advisors. We're just telling
on the
stories.
topic, like, we all got into college. I don't know if you want to take maybe a keeper's perspective on things, but okay. So if you had to go back in time, right? You had a time machine, and you had to give yourself a piece of advice going into freshman year, whatever perspective you want, you know, what advice would you give yourself, or what would be a pothole that you didn't expect coming? Is it a pothole? Is that what it's called? Or a roadblock? What would be a roadblock that you didn't expect to encounter, that you would warn yourself about? College related, cubing related, pretty much.
I think so. This is high school freshman, right? So like we're like,
no.
Going into college
So
freshman.
we're jumping into timeline. We're accepted. It's our first day, and now we're jumping into that time, that point in time, and what happened, or like, watch out for this. What advice would you give yourself?
I think I would have, like I think that for college, like you've already kind of done the hard grade and like schoolwork stuff, so like I would actually say to skimp out on the classes a little, like not try as hard with academics, because I think the beauty of college life is like interacting with the other students. So I know that like for Stanford, there used to be a cubing club, but it died like the year before I got there. And everyone kept saying like, oh, you could start the next one. And I always put it off. But I think if I could rewind time and go back to 2015, I would push myself to create one, even if there's only 3 members. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was also one of my larger regrets in freshman year. So eventually I ended up joining I joined the Cube Club, but I only joined second semester. I actually didn't even I actually didn't even know that there was a Cube Club, because you know Berkeley has had one of the oldest Cube Clubs. I think it's the oldest continuously running Cube Club in the nation, but I didn't even know that it existed, because at that point I was, you know, more or less completely checked out of cubing. The only reason I even knew that there was a Cube Club is because there were A, competitions, and B, on the first day that I had ever attended, it was a physics lecture. The first class I had ever attended, there was a kid who was cubing, and I was like, "Yo, what the like what are the odds, right?" Like, you know, because I thought, like, you know, I had been cubing, right, and then like this guy was just there, and we'd all got there early because, you know, we're all freshmen, right? So we're like, oh, you got to get to class early. You can't show up like 5 minutes after they start. No. You need to get there 10 minutes before. So we're both sitting there, and then he's cubing, and I'm like, how fast are you? And he's like, oh, I averaged 13 seconds. And at the time, I think I averaged like 22. So I was like, oh, geez, dude, this guy is legit. Like he's like a real speed cuber. I'm like, how did you get started and stuff? And he's like, is there a club? And he's like, yeah. There's a club. But he didn't know more details. He just knew that there was a club. But then I never ended up following up with him about cubing until the end of the semester. He was like, yo, there's this Cube Club banquet going on, because at the end of every semester we just have like a banquet to celebrate the semester. And he's like, do you want to come? I'm like, okay, sure, like I'll come, why not? And then I went, and then immediately after the banquet ended, there was the guy who was the president of the Cube Club at the time. I don't know if you guys remember Armin.
I do.
Yeah. Is that what the competition is named after?
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah. So Armin asked me, he's like, yeah, like you're like a cool dude or whatever, but like who the hell are you? Like I have no clue who you are. I've never met you before. Like you just randomly showed up to this Cube banquet. Like who are you? I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I'm Manu. You know, I didn't know about this. I only knew this about through my friend. And he's like, okay, like you should come like actually join the club next year, or you know, next semester. So after doing that, I think that was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, because I came to Berkeley all the way from Ohio, and I knew no one else at Berkeley. Everyone else like had friends from high school or whatever. I didn't know anybody. So joining Cube Club, I think was actually probably one of the best things I could have ever done. And like, you know, I have friends for life. Like, you know, I met Chai through Cube Club. I met Cary through Cube Club. I met like many of my current friends through cubing, which was pretty interesting, right? So if you're a cuber and you're going to go to a school with the Cube Club, you should definitely join. If you're good, you should join. If you're bad, you should join. If you don't know how to cube, you should join. Because, you know, most of the time, especially like in junior and senior year, we would not even cube during meetings. we would just mess around. Like we would just play
hang out.
crosswords. We would watch TV. we would just chat.
Yeah. For me, sorry, Cary, what did you want to say?
Oh, I was just gonna quickly say that Keaton Ellis made a post on Facebook which kind of like reminds me of something that Manu just said, which is sort of like when you like become a Cuber and you kind of befriend everyone in the community, you kind of have friends for life. And I remember Keaton said that it's like so nice that if he travels to a different country, you know, he probably already has friends there that he could like crash at their house because, you know, they've talked about cubing and trust each other. It's like, yeah, even outside, like even if you don't cube anymore, like you still have the community.
Yeah, actually, yeah. That's you mentioned it, because I'm thinking now, like, because we know a good guy in Britain. You know Ed. Like if anytime we ever wanted to go to Britain, like we would just meet Ed, and I've never met the guy in person, right? I've only ever talked to him on Discord or talked to him in his Twitch chat, but like I'm sure like you know he would like be more than willing to put us up and like us the same, right? So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that, especially going to different countries and stuff.
Yeah, if you go to Britain now, you have someone to meet up with.
Yeah.
Cary, would you give it like? Do you have any advice that you would give to yourself, like so? Other than maybe just the academics part, right? Do you think that there was anything else that was a roadblock in college? I mean, I'm not saying there is, but is there anything else in college that you thought was like difficult or that you didn't expect?
I think one thing is that the college institution will kind of like there's a lot of resources for freshmen, but then like sophomore year, you're kind of like on your own again. So I think my sophomore year, I was like kind of lonely in my dorm because I didn't know anyone else in the dorm. Maybe it was like Manu coming from Ohio to California, but it's kind of an interesting time period because like that year I also like worked on YouTube really, really hard, kind of because I didn't have like as many real life friends. But I think like if I could turn that to a piece of advice, if you want to make more friends, I think like you got to be part of a dorm with freshmen because like okay, maybe not freshmen, but like people who are like
I hear you,
like who are willing to kind of like create new communities, because a lot of college communities are already like solidified. And I think speed cubing is also one where people are still looking for new people. So like whether that's like a freshman club or a cubing thing, like, you know, I guess seek them out. There's just too many dorms that was just like upperclassmen who don't want to talk to anyone else new. And yeah, I lived in those like 2 years and they weren't fun years.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean, because once everyone has like kind of formed their cliques, then it's hard to like get a new guy to like come in. I think we were really lucky when because we were 8 friends, and we were gonna rent out a 4-bedroom house, but one of the friends needed to drop, so we needed to like spontaneously add another person to the friend group. So we were really, really lucky that we were able to just find some guy who just kind of meshed really, really well with like our absolutely like completely insane dynamic. And I think it's really difficult to kind of insert yourself into one of these groups as it goes like later and later on. But I think like even if you're friends with someone as a freshman, like as long as you like continue to like meet up with them, you know, just like if you're in like the same classes and stuff, that obviously helps. But yeah, I think building friends early is really, really important. I think basically all of the friends I have from college are people I met in my freshman year.
That's interesting, because like if I were to go back in time for myself, upon reflection, the thing that was what I tended to do a lot in college was same thing in high school almost, but it kind of got ramped up to like dialed it up to 10 or 11. I just like took it really serious with all of my studies. I really wanted to make sure that I had good test results, made sure I knew the syllabus and everything related to it, right? For all the classes that I took. I don't know, I was just kind of drilled into it a little bit, like bordering on obsessive. The reason was because I felt like I could have done better in high school, you know? So that's kind of like how I started off in college. But I think upon reflection, if I were to tell myself, I would definitely have told myself to like relax a bit. Like it's not that serious, you know? Because what you guys say, the social aspect about college, I think is really important. I actually made some really, like, aside from you guys, or cubing as an example, some of my closest friends were made in college. Actually, some of my closest friends were made because I was in the same floor with other people. I was actually in a different situation. I got roomed with 2 upperclassmen.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I got roomed with 2 juniors as a freshman. So I
like 3
yeah,
people in one room.
yeah, we had a triple. So it was really interesting. So all that stuff was really important. But what I will say is, kind of unlike you guys, I kind of learned how important like developing like socially. I learned more about that as I started to like. I don't think I was very proficient socially. I don't think I was I wasn't a very considerate friend. I was also very quiet, stuff like that. And just kind of through like mistakes and stuff like that is how I learned the importance of that experience. So I don't think people going into college should be worried about, oh, I need to make friends X, Y, and Z. Like, you can still learn and come out different. You can come out better even if you just like completely screw up, because you have hindsight.
Yeah.
You have hindsight, and if you're a rational person, you can use that hindsight and be like, what could I have done better, or like what was wrong with how I did things, for example.
Yeah, I think that's another important thing about college. I think it's like I guess this is like a little bit romantic, but like it always like to me it was like it's an opportunity to reinvent yourself, right? Like if you don't like the way that you are like in high school or middle school or whatever, right? Like you can go to a college where no one knows you, right? And you can kind of like you can become the person that you want to be, at least in some ways, right? Like for example, like in high school, I only had like maybe 2 or 3 friends, and we didn't really hang out or do that much. But in college, you know, you're kind of everything is just forced upon you, that like, you know, there's like all these people who live on the same floor are all eating in the same place and everything. So you're just forced to like have more friends, and that I think kind of helped like my personality open up a little bit. Yeah, so I think that's another like good thing about going to college. It's just a complete opportunity to, like, if you notice that like you know there are these flaws or whatever, like, you know, I want to get better at this, then yeah, the opportunity is just totally there for you to just take it.
I mean, I don't know if you guys want to like maybe chime in on this too, but just the necessity of college, especially in recent years, has been in question for a lot of people, especially as college has been increasingly expensive, as really, really prestigious companies hire people without degrees and stuff like that. Like, college is important, but I think college is only important because of the social aspect. You could literally do the bare minimum, skate by college, and you still come out with that degree that you know everyone else gets, right? Because they're not writing your GPA on that degree.
I mean, you know. It's interesting you say that, because I had a phase, and maybe everyone has this phase at some point, but like I think halfway through my freshman year, I remember watching a ton of YouTube videos about why college is a scam or something. Yeah. Maybe it's because I didn't want to like do the schoolwork anymore, but I remember like hearing people talk about, I don't know, like why it's better to go into trades or I don't like. I mean, like there are 4 years of your life when you're young, and like, you know, if you wait until your 60s to actually enjoy life, well, your body might be aging by then. So there's a lot of trade-offs you're already doing just by spending 4 years of your youth in college.
Well, the reason why I consider college like a benefit is it kind of forces your hand in how your life goes, right? So a lot of how our life has turned out is situational, and a lot of it, there's a lot of luck involved. The reason that I met you guys was a lot of luck, right? And it's a happenstance. But what college does is so you're in high school, right? Let's consider each student or each person in your city, your home city, is one marble, and each marble contains a number. and let's say there's numbers 1 through 50, right? You throw the marbles onto the ground, you pick up 2, and the total sum of that number is like an answer. Where I'm getting at is what happens is in college, instead of marbles 1 through 50, you get marbles like 302 to 457. You throw those marbles and you get a completely different total sum that isn't possible in your previous little batch of marbles. You just get, you're just forced into you're forced into situations. You're forced into a new community. And then life just basically says, let's roll some RNG on your life.
Yeah.
In a sense. So you're just picked up and you're dropped somewhere else. And then you can mimic that experience a little bit, like what options you have. You could go straight into the work environment, the workforce. You could take a gap year, you know, you could go hiking across the world. Like people do that, right? You could go into a trade school. Like there are some things that kind of mimic that experience a little bit, but easily college does the best job at that. Because college is all about the experience, whereas like trade school or I think easily like the easiest way to think about not having that experience is going straight into the workforce, because what people tend to like, the cliche is you don't really want to build your relationships and friendships in the work area, for example. Like that's a common thing that people say. You just don't build those opportunities in the same way, in a natural way, like college can. So college does has its purpose. I just don't know. That's what it looks like to me.
I think that, like, you know, like, because when you're in like a college freshman dorm, you're gonna be meeting people your age who came from all these different countries or states, and it's like, you know, you're throwing more marbles and like you have a lot more RNG chances, like you said. And I think like with a job or just like living in your hometown, like every year you kind of just see the same people, so you don't really get a fresh new serving of like possible opportunities. But in college, like things change if not every year, like maybe even every 3 months, because of like new classes and all that. So it's kind of like pressing refresh on a web page or something. And that can be really helpful if you're like in a bad place in life and you don't like the friends you have. It's like you just press refresh when it's like winter quarter and like something different will happen. I don't know if that's like a weird analogy, but
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
It's not a worse analogy than the analogy I gave. Let's say that. Upon retrospect, I think the marbles metaphor was like a little bit peculiar.
Well, it sounds like a Freudian slip, because it sounds like you just really want to play marbles on stream, huh?
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, just thinking out loud, you know, Cary, with what you said, it's interesting how you could just move cities, right?
Yeah,
you could, if you wanted to.
Yeah, one thing I've been kind of skeptical about is like, as an adult, if you move to a new city, it's like you won't be instantly like inundated with a new community. Like it'll be really hard to find friends, and you could live a whole year there. Because I moved to Glendale for one summer, which is like near Los Angeles, and I don't think I made any friends who also lived in Glendale just because we happened to be in the same place. And I think college, you know, like they force you to go to these classes together, and like that sort of like, I don't know what you call it, like, I'm trying to think of an analogy of like being like a fire being lit under your butt. And it's like, you know, get up, go do something.
But another way to like describe that is when you move to a new city as a full-blown adult, instead of having 150 marbles rolling RNG, you would have like 3 or 4. You go to a new city, you find your favorite restaurant, maybe you go find your favorite bar, you go to like the same park every day. But you immediately build a routine, and it's not like everyone else is doing the same thing you are. You're just building your own thing. Like you're gonna know the restaurant owner before you find your best friend. Like kind of, or like, I mean, it could be both. It could be both, but it's just harder, especially like college is just meant to just throw everyone and just see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, because the other thing, if you think about it, is like the opportunities are less just because like the opportunities are less like inherently, but also like as an adult, like if you think about how much time you have in the day, like how much of that time is like spent with other people necessarily, right? Because 40 hours of your week is spent just at work, right? And you know, most of the time you're probably not going to make friends at work immediately, and the friends that you do make at work, there's always like an asterisk, right? Like, oh, this is my work friend. You know, there's some things that you can't do because, you know, it would be unprofessional, right?
Right.
And then, you know, you're going to be sleeping for 8 hours a day. Well, hopefully you sleep for 8 hours a day. So that's another like 50 hours of the week gone. So that's 90 hours of the week. The week is only like 160 hours anyway. So that's only left with 70 hours. You know, you need to, and there are lots of other responsibilities as an adult too, right? Like you need to get food, you need to make food, you know, you need to do laundry, you need to clean the house, things like that. You know, things that like are not always there for like you to just be able to do with other people. Whereas college, it's like first of all, it's not really like a 40-hour work week. I think it's more like 60 to 80.
Yeah.
But 60 to 80 with other people, right? Because very rarely, I think in college nowadays, are you expected to do everything entirely by yourself with zero collaboration whatsoever.
Also, there's just no such thing as a professional barrier.
Oh yeah.
Like just excuse my language, like me and Manu, if we're studying for the same exam and then that's in the morning, right? I could get totally shit-faced and come back, and I mean, it would be fine.
I mean, there's a reason why the
Yeah.
college students are probably some of the most degenerate people in the country, right? Because
Yeah.
they just don't care for
There's
better
no
or for
barrier. But I mean, there's no barrier, and then you could debate. Like maybe that's a separate debate for a different type of podcast. I don't know if that's worth ever talking about here in depth. But just having like the societal barrier in the workplace, right? Like that exists, whether or not it should or not. But in college, it doesn't. It's just whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess like looking at my n=1 data point, I don't have any friends that I've kept from work, and like I guess I just couldn't seem to break that barrier of like, oh, you know, we're just here because we're both trying to, you know, make money or advance our career. We're not really here because like we both just really love each other's energy. Like we're not gonna show up to the workplace on a Saturday. So I don't know if that like changes the vibe, but it's just really hard to kind of have the same carefree attitude you might in a like dorm or like a school playground. I don't know. I'm just going through all ages of.
Yeah. School playground is
Yeah.
I guess college is just school playground, but all the time. Instead of just like 1 hour recess a day, it's just all the time. It's just a school playground.
I mean, I know this podcast is running a little bit long.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I did want to. This is kind of like something a little bit deeper, a little bit. But essentially, I mean, we're talking about what it's like to be an adult, right? And we talked about like elementary school, high school. We're in, like, if you put our life like in chapters, we're in the second half. We're in the longest half. We're in the longest part of our book.
That's interesting.
There could be a lot of subsections. There could be a lot of different chapters. But if you were to divide your life, this is the longest part. It's also like the part that's closest to the end. It might have the part with the most change, but also potentially the least change.
Yeah.
So
you're not
when you're going through the rigors of school, like literally every single year is something new.
Yeah. And
Yeah, that's interesting because one of the things I remember I heard about a long time ago is like this is only slightly related, I guess, but like one reason why like people remember their childhood so well, even as adults, but you can't remember things from like, you know, very basic things that you might have done last year or 2 years ago. There's this theory that's like every single year that gets added onto your life is an increasingly small section of the life that you've lived so far. So for example, if you're a 1-year-old, right?
Yeah.
If you going from being a 1-year-old to a 2-year-old, you're experiencing like the time that you experience is like one half of your entire life up until that point. And if you're like a 20-year-old going from 20 to 21, that additional year is like 1/20th of the life that you've lived so far. But if you're 50, that instead of being 1/20th or a half, it's only 1/50th. So if you like kind of look at it, it like gets smaller and smaller and smaller. up until you become 80, and then like the sliver that you add is like increasingly small. So maybe it has something to do with that. Is like going to like the second half thing. I guess this would be a problem if humans live forever though, because that series diverges.
Yeah, it diverges. Well, I've heard I think that theory is very popular. Like I see it posted to Reddit all the time. I guess like one kind of counter argument, just for the sake of arguing.
Sure.
Then that would state that you'd have more memories from like ages 0 to 3 than even like 10 to 13. But like we don't have any memories from 0 to 3.
Yeah.
That's true.
No, Cary, like
But-
I'm not wholly like disagreeing with what you're saying. I think there is some merit in this. I just don't know how true it is. Or
No, I think I agree with you about saying that like we're in the second half but the longer half, because I think if you're to divide life into two categories, it would be the structured life where you're kind of put on a path, and the unstructured life where you decide every turn you make. And it's like, I mean, I don't want to say that there's a very clear start and a very clear end, but it does feel like college graduation was like the turning point for me. Well, I guess for me it's kind of weird because I was like doing school on and off, and I would take a quarter off and then I'd go back.
Mhm.
But I think for me, if there's one dividing line, it would be like when I was on the academic path and then when I wasn't.
Yeah. I think it's also interesting. I wonder what the listeners are going to think, because we're all just like young adults, right? We're relatively fresh out of college. We haven't hit our like midlife crisis or anything. We got a long road ahead of us, but yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about, like, the experiences that we've had so far and how that's going to compare to the longer second half that we have waiting ahead of us. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
I think like Cubers care so much about academia. It's just a natural thing. I did want to ask you, Manu, because more than me and Cary at all, when we can cut our half right at the academic part, right? So I went to school and I'm not in school. My trade just not related to school, right? But for you could argue that your trade was a direct effect of school. So do you feel like you can still cut the same line as us?
No. Yeah.
Does that feel like the significant things change?
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think the other thing is that maybe it's also related to the like coronavirus and stuff, because I graduated in 2020, right? So I think things also changed significantly for everybody at that point as well. But yeah, I think like it comes down to like the social structure and like the increased responsibility and things like that. It's weird for me to think of myself as like an adult, right? Like, like I'm relatively fresh out of college. Like I don't feel like an adult because sometimes, I'll eat like just like toast for a meal, right? Like that's not a very adult thing to do. Or sometimes I'll stay up until 4 a.m. That's not a very adult thing to do. An adult would never do anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I think things did change. Things did change after college. Once college kind of ended rather abruptly for me, it got very different because I also didn't really take any time off between once school ended and working. I think school ended in May, and then I just started working in June. Whereas like I guess if I had like taken time off and maybe started in August, I guess I could have done something else. Maybe that would have been like a sub chapter or something, but. Yeah, I don't know. I think even for people who, out of college are in a job, I think it's still a very big difference. And I think the same might be true for grad school as well. I think grad school just seems like a very different beast than undergrad. So.
Yeah.
I'm not in grad school, so screw that.
I mean, I think
I'm
grad
good.
school is like very clearly like you do it if you want to,
Mhm.
and like most people don't want to, so they don't. So it's like the first one that's like really optional. Like the bachelor's not that optional.
Yeah,
definitely. Whoa. Dang, this is a long one, guys.
This is a long one.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a deep one. We started off messing around.
This was really deep. Yeah.
We got
I
some
think this is a good.
somewhat heavy stuff, but hopefully you found some of it interesting enlightening. Maybe, I don't know. You, like I said, you don't have to take what we say for granted, or not granted. Don't take what we say word by word for word. But if it
take
maybe
it with
helps
a
you
grain
think
of
about
salt.
something, right? Like
take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know, if we just inspire you to like maybe think about things a little bit more, I think we've done our job, our quote unquote job. We're not paid to do this, not yet at least. Please get us to 1,000 subscribers so we can get paid.
Yeah,
Please.
1,000 subscribers to CubersLive.
We need money.
I think these 3 podcasts, you know, they can, I guess, mutate into talking about like other things, and that's the fun of it.
Yeah. This is also like a pretty big deviation from the first 4 episodes. This one is more just like, you know, us not talking about cubing that much. So let us know if you enjoyed this. Let us know if you hate this, that you never want to hear this again, that you only want to hear cubing content. We'll switch to that. I don't think we the other thing before we end off, I don't think we actually have officially ever mentioned this, but you can also listen to the podcast in audio only form. So if you're on YouTube and you're like, what is going on? This is a podcast, right? Why is there a video? Like, where can I listen to this audio only? If you go into the description, you'll see the red circle link, and then that will link you to a bunch of different carriers. I know for sure on Spotify, Google, I think soon to be on Apple Podcasts, probably on Apple Podcasts by the time this gets released. So yeah, feel free to take a listen on your platform of choice. And
at the moment, all those platforms we are directly searchable as of all the platforms that so you don't even have to go to red circle, you can just find us.
Oh yeah that's true. And if if there's one we missed, then let us know. Give us feedback in the comments and our Twitter. You know, you can join Discord. I think Discord link is there as well. I think that's all the shilling I had to do.
No, it's good to shill, like otherwise people won't know. But I think you know, it's cool to see how much work you're doing and like putting up the podcast on all these different platforms. But on that note, I guess we shall wrap up. So thanks to all the viewers for listening and the listeners for viewing.
Thank you guys.
I guess I'll see you all later. Goodbye.
Thanks all.
Peace out, guys.
Bye.
Good night.